Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So a while ago I made a video called Childhood Trauma, and in that video I mentioned a short film called The Jester. It mainly traumatized me because it was released on the same time as like those killer clown things that were going on and stuff. I did like the short and stuff, and I stopped at there. I believe I mentioned that there was 3 shorts in that video and I would eventually talk about them, and here's me eventually talking about them because guess what? Not only was there a film released in 2023, and yes I know Elvis Alien did a video on it and stuff. I haven't personally seen it yet, but I know of it. There's also a film getting released, I'm pretty sure, this weekend or next weekend. I think it's like the 15th and the 16th, and if it's as half as good as the first movie, I'm probably not going to go see it because the first movie was really bad. But the thing I want to do in this video is talk about the 3 shorts real quick and then go into in-depth with the movie, because the movie is a religious experience. My new god is the Jester, and the Jester is a holy man. Getting to the first 3 shorts that were produced, they were made over a consecutive few nights. They were made for very cheap and very minimal cast and crew. Now, I'm not going to harsh on them too bad because, like I said, there was cheap, not many people were doing it, and it was it was genuine effort being put into it. The first short, which I once again talked about in my childhood trauma video, has the Jester like stalking a dude who's just trying to get home for Halloween, slice his wrist right in front of the dude, and ends up getting him not only hit by a car, but also kidnapping the mofo. The second short, a fat Waldo gets cucked and eventually nearly murdered by his cat girlfriend. That pussy was wet for the Jester. And the third short follows the Jester as he takes a girl trick-or-treating, terrorizes the neighborhood, and then we actually find out that the third short is actually before the first short. The reason I want to quickly explain these and stuff is, like I said, they're short, to the point. I actually recommend you go check them out and stuff. The best one's going to be the first one, obviously, but the rest of them have their own merits and stuff. But the reason I want to quickly get through these is to sort of lay the rules of what the Jester is. The Jester, at least in my opinion, is supposed to be the spirit of Halloween, sort of like a trick-or-treat Sam kind of dude. And IMDb agrees with me. And even, I think the IMDb for the first movie does, maybe. Where specifically on the first short's IMDb, it mentions that he is the spirit of Halloween, or a spirit of Halloween. So yeah, and that's shown throughout the shorts. The reason he pesters the one dude, well, he isn't in costume, and also he's not participating in Halloween stuff. And also he doesn't find his tricks amusing and stuff. I forgot that's also a major thing, which the movie keeps that, but also not. Kind of. That also happens in the second one. Fat Waldo is just like, yo, dude, this isn't fucking cool, and then nearly gets murked. And in the third one, he actually accompanies the little girl for trick-or-treating and encounters people who are douchebags on Halloween. He also specifically at one point takes a whole bucket of candy from a pick one only thing, which, you know, I always wanted to do that as a kid, but I had my dad and grandma next to me, so they would not let me do that stuff. But yes, to lay the ground rules for this, I think what they were initially trying to go for was, like I said, trick-or-treat Sam kind of thing. Which, Trick or Treat, really good movie. Y'all should go watch that. I try to watch it like every Halloween. And these are Halloween movies / shorts. The reason I also want to get into this, not only to discuss the film and stuff, is because a lot of people will say The Jester is a ripoff of Terrifier. I believe even the title of the Elvis Alien video is We Have Terrifier at Home. And in my opinion, that cannot be said for the shorts. That can definitely be said for the film, because not only did it come out, I believe, like 4 to 7 years after Terrifier. I'm trying to remember when Terrifier came out. I think, was Terrifier came out in 2019? Why am I remembering it came out in 2019? That sounds correct to me. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Tell me in the comments. But yeah, they are made 4 years apart. And were also developed by the same studio, because fun fact, this is a Dread production, which I looked into Dread. It was essentially a website like Bloody Disgusting that went on to also produce films. And the only like big films that they have produced is, no joke, Terrifier and The Jester. And Jester, you can't even say it's a big film, but I mean, there is a sequel coming out, and it's recognizable for an online audience. So yeah. Anyway, since that's all taken care of, this is my last warning. I'm going to be spoiling the entirety of the film, and it's going to get messy. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go watch the movie. It's like free on YouTube, not only through like YouTube movies, but also I'm pretty sure someone just pirated the film and just put it on there. Watch either or. Don't really care. Anyway, let's get into this piece of shit. Trying to decipher the plot of this film is incredibly messy, because I want you to take everything I just told you about the Jester in the first part of this video, the shorts part, and toss it in a trash can, because none of it matters here. It's a new, like, design of it. It's the same actor, fun fact, who is also the co-writer of the shorts. And he's played the Jester in every single project, including the new one, which, you know, I gotta respect that and stuff, you know, same man behind the mask. The easiest way I can boil down the plot is by not boiling it down, sort of giving you a play-by-play, but I'm just gonna, like, speed run it through. Also, if you see me use footage from Jester shorts, that's because I really don't want to get copyrighted, because I want to get this video out as soon as possible, and I don't want to fucking deal with that. So anyway, the film opens up with a man trying to call his daughter and stuff. Daughter's just like, "Nah, Dad, you left me and Ma." and hangs up on his bitch ass. To which then the Jester appears behind him, tells him, oh, you did a bad job, and then kills the dude by hanging him. To which then the entire time they assume it's a sewer slide, except setting that up would just be, it would be insanely impossible to do any of this shit. We cut to the funeral for the dude where we find the daughter who was contacted by him on the phone, and we find out that not only did he just leave their asses when she was like 10, I want to say, or maybe even younger, but also straight up just went on to establish a whole new family, to which the mom died there, so they have sort of that camaraderie, except straight up she's an orphan, and the girl says she's an orphan. I don't remember any of the names of the characters. I'm gonna call them Sister 1, Sister 2. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Sister 1's whole entire thing is just like, I hate my dad because he was a terrible dad, and he is a terrible dad. The film will also try to trick you into it being like, you know, you were also a terrible daughter even though you were like 10 years old. The messages are extremely metal throughout this film. And daughter 2's whole entire thing is just like, my dad's dead and I think I'm seeing his ghosts. Yes, there's ghosts in this film. There are actual ghost phenomenon. And by the way, I did watch this film 3 times because I tried to make this video multiple times. To divulge through the editing mess that is this film, we see Sister 2 sitting down and watching, weirdly enough, I believe it's The Haunting on Hill House. No, that's the TV show. Is that also the movie? It's the movie where it's like, I invited a bunch of guests. It's that one dude. It's that one dude who was also in Scooby-Doo, Mr. Incorporated, who's like, I invited a bunch of guests into this haunted manor and gave them $10,000. But yeah, they straight up watch that for like 2 minutes straight, and then she's just like, I'm a toke up. And then her friends show up, and they're just like, yo, were you smoking weed? And she was like, nah, dog, just a little bit. To which then they have a whole entire scene where they're talking about like if ghosts are real and stuff, and dude is just like, I don't believe in ghosts, and then everyone treats him like an asshole because it's just like, yo, she's seeing ghosts of her dead dad. But I don't know, I'd be comforted if someone was just like, yo, the ghost of your dead dad isn't real, he isn't haunting you. I would be comforted by that. While all this is going on, Sister 1 is just out on the town, encounters the Jester, who does a little magic trick for her and tries stalking her, to which then she goes into like a alcohol store. The dude tries to hit on him in the creepiest way I've ever seen. She leaves, starts opening, carrying the bottle, and just chugging on the sidewalk. Encounters the Jester again, spooks her into shattering the bottle, and then picks up and slices his throat. And the funniest thing I have to say about this is if you watch the pirated version on YouTube, the YouTuber had to blur out all the blood, which I will say it is the best effects in the movie. He falls down and then weirdly stands up. I was like trying to piece together how they did it and stuff. I think what they just did is just filmed it backwards and stuff because it just looked wrong. It was just like, no, that doesn't look right. So then she goes back into the liquor store. Dude calls the cops because she's like, oh, she's covered in blood and stuff. And they assume it's just like, oh, she was drunk, or oh, she's smoking crack. To which then there's a whole entire scene in this bodega slash like alcohol store where the Jester does some magic shit, gets the cops handcuffed to each other, and somehow decapitates one, except he's still alive. And then alcohol bro just leaves. So does Sister 1. And then the cop just starts unloading on him, accidentally shoots his still somehow living police partner, possibly gay lover, I don't know. To which then he's presumably killed off screen by the Jester, which I will say, once again, the next is the only good effect because all the rest of them are shit. Going back to Sister 2, her and her friends, who you're gonna realize there's only like one good friend and stuff and everyone else is shit, goes to this haunted house place to where she keeps seeing more like premonitions of her dad and shit. And then the Jester stars appear and starts like murdering people. And by murdering people, I just mean he straight up rips the eyes and teeth out of, I think his name is Brian. It's the only dude in the group. And then just breaks the leg of one of our other friends. And then like force chokes the third friend. And then she's like, no, don't hurt my friend. She's like, no, the damage is done. What do you mean? They already like fucked up. And also, by the way, just to spoil the ending, you see them all at the end. The only one who is confirmed not there is Brian. What happened to my boy Brian? Will we see him in the sequel? Probably not, because none of the actors and actresses are listed for that one. After this, it's presumed that she's like taken and stuff, because in the rest of the film is Sister 1, to which then we get this weird as hell scene where she gets called by her mom, which by the way, I forgot to mention, she get called by her mom in the beginning. The mom was just like, you know, you should really get to know the love child of my husband who left us. And then we find out it's the Jester speaking to her through the mom voice, and that's where you sort of get the weird parallels to not only Terrifier, but Terrifier 2 specifically, which I need to preface this. I love Terrifier. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on this channel. I do love Terrifier. So yeah, I did notice that. And then essentially the Terrifier dude is just like, you know, you are not a good daughter and stuff. You left your deadbeat dad hanged up on the phone. You left in the voicemail. You could just let me kill this other girl, or you could come and save her. And so she chooses that. To then, I think she also gets magically teleported to this like, no, it's like a haunted house thing. It's like a haunted house or like a corn phase thing. To which then she sees the spiritual version of Sister 2 as a child, but that doesn't make any sense because how would she know what she looks like? Is this her ghost? She's not dead yet. That should just be a random ass child to her. There's just a bunch of shit that happens in this movie that never gets explained, and especially this next part because it's really fucking dumb. She goes into like this house in the haunted house, sees a premonition of her dead dad and the child version of her sister, technically, like biologically her sister, because it was like half sister. I'm gonna go with half sister. Sister too. We see that and they're carving pumpkins, and then dad's just like, you were a shitty daughter. You were so bad of a daughter. You were a bad daughter and stuff. And then and then sister 2 is like, I can't remember if I'm misconstruing the scene. Either she says you should do the job and then like hands her a knife because they're carving pumpkins and stuff, and she's like, you should kill yourself. I'm pretty sure that's how the scene went, like how she was saying it. You should do it, you should end it, you're not a good daughter at all. To which then she flips a knife and she's like, I'm a stab the premonition of sister 2, you're probably not real. And then boom, same cut, we find out sister 2 is actually there and stuff, and now they're in like a church. They're randomly in a church. So then sister 2 gets stabbed, she bleeding, and then Jester's just like, no. And then she proceeds to stab him a bunch and then says like, you're not the man you made me. Some dialogue like that. Really nothing and stuff. It's like just a moment to let her do some acting and shit. We cut away from this. We're at a gravestone. And once again, the weirdest thing, if you watch the official one, it has her dad's name on it. But if you watch the one that got booted onto YouTube, it has no name on it. It's just a blank piece of granite in the fucking ground. Probably not granite. It's like something like that. To which then she has an internal monologue just like, Dad, you were bad, but you were good to her, and that's all that matters. I was like, no, he's a piece of shit. What do you mean? Because the entire thing with the dad is just like, yeah, I didn't want to have a kid, but then I did want to have a kid. Whoopsie doodle. So then we have this monologue and stuff, and she goes to this bar that they establish as like a meeting place, even though it's just probably just a film location that they could afford. And it's just like, I gotta look out for her. And then once again, it has 2 of her friends and sister 2, but Brian is dead probably. So yeah, let's wrap this bitch up. So to summarize my thoughts and opinions, if somehow for a reason you skip to the very end, the shorts are okay, but well-meaning and stuff. If you want to watch them to see some amateur filmmaking and stuff, and maybe learn some tips and tricks, you go ahead with that. The film, on the other hand, I get where people get the whole entire, oh, it's a Terrifier ripoff and stuff. Whether that be through the weirdest shit like bloody scenes and stuff, or the telephone communicating stuff. And also, I think it's just, it doesn't hold on to the true form of the Jester, because like I said, there's not really a mentioning of him being a spirit of Halloween. He appears around Halloween time, because all this takes place on Halloween. He doesn't really care if you like his tricks or not. At one point, he does like grab a bunch of candy out of this kid's bag because he didn't like his trick or was like greedy. But like someone in there was like saying like, oh, he's a dialogue for grief or something like that, or oh, he's supposed to be an interpretation of guilt or letting go and stuff. I was like, that still doesn't make sense once you break it down. That does not make sense, and there's plenty of better films like that. I would have liked it if it was just, oh, he's a mysterious entity that you must appease by doing Halloween shit. And hell, you can even have the dead dad thing, like, oh, she doesn't want to celebrate Halloween because her and her dad really liked Halloween, and now her dad's dead. You could have done that. But you didn't. You just made a bad movie. Weirdly enough, the first film actually made $1 million. It was all foreign, and specifically I looked it up through, I think it was like Box Mojo and stuff, and it said like $700,000 was made when it was released in Mexico and a bunch of other countries. There was no domestic box office for this. I don't think it was ever released domestically, but yeah. And they do not publicly display a budget for the film. I'm assuming it was 2 Snickers and a bottle of lube. But yeah, the second film's coming out. If you want to go see it as a bad horror film, or, you know, hoping that it's good, it's releasing the 15th and 16th to select theaters. I am not sponsored at all. It's just I work at a movie theater, saw that this was happening, and I was like, oh shit, I need to make a video about this to capitalize on it before it comes out. So yeah, y'all have a good day, good night, midnight. I'll be seeing you on the next one. Make sure not to die. Bye-bye.